Just going to do some calculations with exact angles. Now, first of all, we just need to look at our 60-30 triangle. So we're going to go 60, 30. That would be root 3, 1 and 2. And then our 45 triangle, which is 45, 45, 1, 1, root 2. Okay, so we're going to apply this to angles of any magnitude. Now, if I just went sine 60, you can just read these straight from the triangle. Cos 30. Tan 30, sine 30, that goes sine 45, cos 45, or tan 45. So we're going to find these exactly using the triangles. Now you can put them in and then square them and then square root your answer. I'll show you what I mean by that. Or you can just get it from the triangle. So sine 60 is opposite on hypotenuse. So that's root 3 on 2. Cos of 30 is adjacent on hypotenuse. So adjacent would then be that one. So it'd be root 3 on 2. Tan 30 would be 1 on root 3. Sine 30 will be 1 on 2 because it's opposite to 30 on 2. Sine 45, so if you take one of the 45s, it's opposite on hypotenuse, 1 on root 2. Cos 45 is 1 on root 2, and tan is 1 on 1, which is 1. Now that's all good when the angle is acute. If the angle is obtuse, okay, and you want to find the exact value. So say I had cos of 120 degrees. See, I know that 120 degrees will be in this quadrant here. And cos of 120 degrees will have to be negative because the only thing that's positive in that quadrant is sine. And the adjacent side is minus x on 1. And that means that the adjacent has to be negative. Okay, so cos will be negative. Now, this matches up. In that quadrant, it is 180 minus theta. So we've basically got to use these rules, all stations 2, cos theta, 180 minus theta, 180 plus theta, 360 minus theta. So if we say cos 120, that is equivalent to cos of 180 minus theta. And that will equal minus cos of theta. So what is the little acute angle that comes in there? So 180 minus what will give you 120? That would be 60. So it is equivalent to cos 60, but it will be negative. I'll get you to check this in your calculator as well. So what is cos 60? So if you go to your triangle and you go 60, it's 1 root 3, 2. Cos of 60 would be 1 on 2, so it'll be minus a half. So try this. Put in cos of 120, what do you get? Okay, so you get minus a half. And now put in cos of 60. See how you get a half? So it's exactly the same value, but it's the wrong sign. Because 120 would plant it in the second quadrant, therefore you must make it negative. Now you can also do these on with a calculator. I'll show you how. But let's go sine 240, okay? And we're going to go sine 240. I'm going to do it in two ways. We're going to find the exact value. Okay, so first of all, 240, tick which quadrant? It's in the third quadrant. All stations 2, cos. That means you're going to get a negative answer. Okay, what in that quadrant 2, it is 180 plus theta. So you're saying 180 plus theta equals 240. 180 plus what is 240? 180 plus 60. So that is going to equal sine 180 plus 60, that's positive, it'll equal minus sine 60. So it'll be the same value as if you did minus sine 60. Now sine 60, that would be opposite on hypotenuse, so it's going to be minus root 3 on 2. If you use your calculator, just put in the calculator sine of 240. So you go sine 240. And you get minus 0.866. See, there's your negative. Don't lose it because it's putting it in that quadrant. Now, if you square that answer, you get 3 on 4. So if I squared the answer, I've changed it. But if you then decide, okay, now I'm going to square root it, you end up with root 3 on 2, which is, see what we got up here? You just got to make sure that if you do this method, that you remember the negative sign and you plant the negative sign on it. Okay. All right. So let's just look at another one. Let's go tan of 225, and then we'll go sine of 330 degrees, and cos of 210 degrees. Okay, so you could use your calculator, but let's just do it from scratch. So tan 225 is this quadrant, and tan is positive. So that's the first thing you check. If I was doing this one, sine of 330 is there, sine, only cos is negative there, so positive there, so sine will be negative. And if you've got cos of 210, that's that quadrant, so 210 and its cos, it'll be negative because that's tan in that quadrant. Okay, now I've got to find the acute angle that matches these. Now, if you're having trouble with these, see it goes 60, then 180 minus 60. So I'll just go theta, 180 minus theta. If we think about this as the table, that's each quadrant. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4. So quadrant 1, if it was 60, 180 minus 60 is 120. 180 plus 60 is 240. 360 minus 60 is 300. If you did 30, 180 minus 30 is 150. 180 minus plus what is 240. 180 plus 30 is 210. And 360 minus 30 is 330. And the other exact thing that has exact values is 45. So 180 minus 45 is 135. 180 plus 45 is 225. And 360 minus 45 is 315. And that plants it in each quadrant. So if you look at this, you've got 225. That's in the third quadrant. That would be 180 plus theta. 180 plus what gives you 225? That would be 45. So it is going to be equivalent to tan 45, and it will be positive. Tan 45, using your triangles, if you just look it up on your formula sheet, would be 1 on 1. So it's positive 1. You could also put it in your calculator, you would get that. So sine 330, sine 330 plants it in this quadrant. It would be 360 minus what? 360 minus 30. So that's equal to sine 30. Sine 30 is equal to what? So if that's 30, 1 root 3, 2. Sine 30 is equal to a half. Your calculator would get that as well. Cos 210, that would have been 180 plus 30 to get 210. So it's equal to minus sine 30, minus, now sine 30 is, cos, it's not sine, it's cos. Cos 30 is root 3 on 2. So there is a calculator way you can also do this. So let's just look at, for that 210, so we look at the cos 210, which we got minus root 3 on 2. So if I went cos 210, okay, if you put cos of 210 in your calculator, you will get minus 0.866025. And then when you square that, you get 3/4. Okay, so then you have to square root it. So if you root both top and bottom, you get root 3 on 2. And then you get minus root 3 on 2. And that's the same thing. Notice that's what we got up the top here. Exactly the same thing. But you could do it in your calculator. So if you are doing it in your calculator, basically what you do is you square it. Make sure you collect the negative too. Make sure you get the negative when you put it in. Then square it. And then mentally, not in your calculator, square root. So you square root the top and the bottom. So if you get 0.75, like make it 3/4, root 3 on 4, that means you get root 3 on 2. If you got 0.5, that's a half, go back and square root it, you get 1 on root 2. If you just got, when you squared it, you got 0.25, that would be a quarter, square root that, you get 1/2. So that probably wasn't necessary to square in the first place.